There's so much stuff going on right now in dentistry. That's why it's so darn exciting. And the technology compared to buying a $180,000 CT scan or a $130,000 laser or those things. This is stuff that the printers are reasonably priced, the materials reasonably priced. And what I've seen, even in full arch dentistry now, everything is going to milling and to printing.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Reagan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Practices. I am your host, Reagan Robertson. Dr. Chad Johnson, my co-host, is out today. He is, believe it or not, practicing dentistry. So I have invited a special guest to be with us this day. It is the co-founder of Productive Dentist Academy and founder of Compassionate Finance, Dr. Bruce B. Baird. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bruce.
Thank you, Reagan. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, I look towards a lot of people in my life who I think are 5+ years. They're visionaries. They create the future. They see it before myself and others see it. And you are definitely one of those people that I look up to. You see far down, and you're an educational junkie. You're an always learner.
Yeah, I just enjoy it. I mean, I know that there's some stuff I don't want to learn, and that's good. So I'm saving room in my brain for the stuff I want to learn more about. So that's my game. But I'm intrigued by new technologies and new things that are out there. And boy, is dentistry changing rapidly. I mean, I put the handpiece down 2 years ago. Doesn't mean I'm retired. It means I'm probably spending more time now learning about dentistry than I was when I was actively practicing, because I really feel an obligation to the docs that come to our programs and that listen to me on the podcast. I don't want to become one of those, obsolete old farts that, doesn't know what's going on. And truthfully, it's so exciting. I wish this stuff was around 41 years ago, and I would have had a run with it. But I've got several projects right now that I'm doing that are going to be utilizing the technology. So I'm excited.
This is one of the reasons I had to grab a few minutes of your time and bring you on the podcast, because I want people to see what I get to see on a sometimes daily basis. You had just wrapped up attending Full Arch Masters, I think out in Fresno, California. Yeah. And we just had a general phone call of, hi, what's up? What's it going? And your energy just jumped through the telephone, and you were like, oh my gosh, I just, learned something that turned me on my head. I think we should be doing dentistry this way. This is some of the new technology coming out. And so I want to let listeners in on what is inside your brain and what new technology you're seeing today. What is really lighting your hair on fire?
Right now in dentistry, things have, it's gone digital probably for the last 15, 20 plus years. But then scanning technology and intraoral scanning, I've been using a CEREC for 25 years. So we've had these technologies, but the ability to be able to take that technology and to solve problems, and, not just buying technology for the heck of it. Used to be you'd buy a piece of technology and market that you had that technology so people would come, but it didn't really change what we did day to day. The stuff that's happening now, it changes what we're doing day to day. We can now scan the mouth and have occlusal guards printed in our own office with printers. So, what we've been sending to a laboratory to do, we can now design very quickly with new softwares and print that occlusal guard. They have different materials now that you can use in the printers. There is, and this has been around for a bit, but the technology keeps getting better and better. There's new materials, so you could print like what I would do is when I'm prepping teeth, we're making some provisionals or temporaries. Or when I'm doing a same day smile concept, we would spend 5, 6, 7 hours in the op, and I had people trained to design them, and then I would look at them, and then we would make their final crowns. But there was no real preview to it. I mean, I could do a mock-up preview for the patient to see it, but it would be close, but it wouldn't be exactly what they were going to be getting. Well, now you can do digital wax ups and you can show the patient what it's going to look like. Not only that, you can prep the teeth, scan that, and they have software, exocad software, which you can use, and it melts the two images together. The image of the diagnostic wax up, if you will, but it's all digital, and it melts that with the prep teeth. And you then find your margins, you hit a button, and in about 19 minutes, using the Envision Tech One printer, you've got a full done temporary with different shades, different colors. But the most important thing to me is it fits perfectly to your margins. So, and Summer is one of the best provisional makers. I would, you put the acrylic in and you put it in the mouth, and then you have to trim it, and there's all the excess, and it would take Summer an hour and a half to do that work, and the margins would be great, but is a lot of work.
Right.
This is something that in 19 minutes, it's a finished product that's going to fit to margin in the mouth, which is just absolutely incredible. So I began to question the efficacy of using 8 hours of chair time and giving somebody a final smile. What I'm going to prefer to call that now is a preview smile. You're going to get your preview smile in a beautiful shade. They have Flexera resins, which is, they have them in different shades. So and most of the shades honestly are going to be B1 or B0. People want white smiles. They don't
right.
But you can do that. You put it in their mouth and it fits good, and the bite is good. And then with that preview smile, you see them 3 days later, and you ask them how do you like it? How's it feel? So the patient's only in your office for maybe 2-3 hours instead of 8 hours. And I would be sending that case once the patient says it looks great. I'm sending that case to the laboratory, and they're going to make those crowns for me. It's time savings. Yes, there's more cost on this side where now you have the lab doing the work for you.
Right.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I've never had a problem. I love CEREC, and I love using it because of the convenience of doing single crowns and smiles. It was an unbelievable way of getting people involved in cosmetic dentistry, because if they thought they could get it done in one day, that's amazing. Well, now I can say it's a same day smile, but it's going to be, what we're going to be doing is this process using the printers, and we're going to give you a preview smile. They come in, they say, I love it, or I want this tooth a little shorter. We just change it in our digital workflow. And the patient says, I think the shade could be a little lighter, darker, whatever. Great. How's your bite feel? We may adjust the bite, get it to where it feels perfect, then scan that bite, and that becomes the new bite. So everything is done that way. So it's very, very efficient, and the patient's getting an unbelievable final product. So that's one of the areas in technology with same day smiles. You can make surgical guides, you can make models, you can do, for ortho, there's, different things you can build with ortho software, OrthoCAD software. There's so much stuff going on right now in dentistry. That's why it's so darn exciting. And the technology, compared to buying a $180,000 CT scan or a $130,000 laser or those things, this is stuff that the printers are reasonably priced, materials are reasonably priced. And what I've seen, even in full arch dentistry now, everything is going to milling and to printing. And with these new materials, this Flexera is 3 times stronger than our regular acrylics that we use. So gosh.
Is that for the final product is 3 times, or the temporary is 3 times?
It's actually the temporary is three
Wow.
times stronger. But the cool part is in 19 minutes, I can print two temporaries that fit exactly the same way and keep one as a backup in case there was a problem during the 2 or 3 weeks where it's at the laboratory. So I like that. I like the smile preview. There are a lot of dentists out there that can do the same day smiles like we were doing with Sarah,
Right.
but you have to have super trained people to do it. Whereas this, you know, you've really simplified and lowered the bar as far as training individuals. Plus,
Mhm.
all of your design work can be done by an exocad expert.
Mhm.
So you're not having to train a team member to do it. You actually have someone outside of that team that's doing all your exocad. So all of your designs, which is really great because you know the quality control is going to be outstanding doing it that way.
So Bruce, you had me with this preview smile, and the messaging around it, the communication with patients is so key to this. So there's the financial wins and the element and the time and the training. That all to me is like green check boxes all the way down the line.
Right.
You really caught my ear though at preview smile. How many, and this, since I haven't had a full mouth rehab and I've had actually very little done to my teeth.
Good for you.
Right. Sure. How how often is it that patients have reservations about that initial investment, and if they're having major work done, what that final is going to look like? Do they just trust you all in and say, "Doc, I know you'll make it a good smile"? How does that work?
No, it's really neat because now there's 3D cameras where you're going to take a picture of the patient's face. You're then going to take a smile and put it within the patient's face so that they'll be able to see what it's going to look like before it's done. And then that's used as part of the digital wax up to say, okay, this looks great on the patient. It's lined up perfectly with the pupils. It's a great smile. There's no slant to the embrasures. Everything fits in that person's smile. And at that point, they make this digital wax up of that, and then it's transferred right to the patient. So the patient does get a preview smile before we even prep the teeth,
Mhm.
and they get their preview smile that they get to wear for a couple of weeks. And what I know as a marketer is there's nothing like having a patient out that you've changed their whole life with a brand new smile. And they're out in town and their friends see them and they go, "Oh my gosh, your smile looks great." And their next response is, "Oh, well, this is just a temporary. You're not even going to believe the final." So in other words, it puts them as a missionary out there telling everybody about how great you are. Plus, the technology itself, I mean, you're able to make these temporaries for pennies. I mean, literally, you're printing it for maybe $5. And so I'm doing something that is quick, much easier for the patient. Um, they get to sit in my chair instead of sitting all day being sedated, which I still am okay with. But hey, let's get that preview and let's let you wear it. Let's get that bite tuned perfectly and then scan it and make it. And we can do the same thing with implants. We can do the same thing. We're going to design that smile, design that case completely digitally. You can print like today, or in the past, we'd have to take a denture, drill holes in it, and do what we call modify it or reline that to the implants. Whereas now you've got cameras, you've got you actually don't take impressions. You actually have these special type cameras, a PIC camera, iMetric 4D, but you'll take a scan of the implants. It tells exactly where those implants are placed. You then design the teeth on top of it. You push a button and it mills perfectly to those implants. So now, and I'll tell you, I've done hundreds, if not thousands, of full arch uppers and lowers.
Mhm.
And every time you're putting your final in, you screw that in, you hear this little squeaky sound.
Mhm.
And I don't like that squeaky sound. You know that there's tension on it, there's pressure. And for 25, 30 years, that's just the way it is. Well, today, with these new scanned abutments and all of this stuff, when I screw it down, there is no squeak. It's just down.
No
There's no
way.
extra stress, no extra nothing on those implants. And I believe by doing that, the implant longevity gets even better. So there's so much stuff that we can do now with this printing technology. It's amazing. And milling, no question.
Bruce, thank you for sharing and going into letting us into your mind and see what's new in technology. There was something else when we were in Florida together. So Bruce and I, Victoria, the PDA crew, we were all down at the dental festival in
Yes.
Florida, and we were speaking to innovations, and you just decided to go out to the public and say, hey, I've been working on something on the side here that's been really fun for my wife and I, and that is mining Bitcoin.
Yes. I've been involved in cryptocurrency since 17, November 3rd of 17. I was sitting, it was my wife's birthday. We were in Colorado, and I had been hearing so much about it. Boy, I wish it would have been, I wish it had been 2011 or 10, but it was 17. And I just recently we started mining Bitcoin. And what is mining Bitcoin? Well, it's solving a mathematical equation to be paid in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin basically is a digital currency. Some people think Bitcoin's going to go to, $500,000 per coin. And everybody always says, well, where's your coin? What is the coin? Where is the coin? So, and what it is, it's digital currency. Comparing that to paper currency, people say, well, yeah, but Bitcoin's not backed by anything. And well, unfortunately, neither is the US dollar. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by anything. It's just backed by our government. And so I've started wondering about a lot of things and thinking about a lot of things. So we started mining Bitcoin. And is it what I would call alternative investment? Yes, it's very much an alternative investment. It's not 100% of my investment portfolio. It's about 8%, but started at 5. I'm kind of diversified. I've got other things out there, but I started at 5, but it kept growing. Now it's at 8. And, if it keeps doing what it's doing, it may end up being 10 or 15% of my portfolio just because it's grown so much. So, and it's basically buying supercomputers and letting the supercomputers solve the equations, and you get paid in Bitcoin. And you can withdraw that money from the site. I'm actually using a third-party site that is hosting, which I did all the research myself. Charlie Brown, my son-in-law, and the head guy over at Compassionate Finance, we wanted to build our own farm, our own mining farm. I then worked with guys who, one of my buddies who has built the largest solar farm in the world, just over in the Middle East. And so we started talking about costs to do that. Yes, we could do completely renewable energy, run our miners in a facility warehouse, do that kind of stuff. The cost to do it for a small number of miners, 200-300 miners or 400 miners. A lot of people are using shipping containers, and they're turning these shipping containers into little mining houses. But the electricity is expensive.
The cooling costs.
Just the cooling. And I looked into computers that are dropped in a special type oil with no fans, so it keeps them cool. So I looked at everything for doing it myself because I really wanted to do it myself, and it kept coming down to energy costs or startup costs. Yes, if you just want to grab 2 miners and stick them in your garage, you could do that. As the price of Bitcoin continues to go up, the price of the miners goes up. So, in my opinion, this is a good time to do it. And that's what we've been doing. And we're bringing in money when we're sleeping, all 24/7, 365. The miners are working. And
what type of machines are these nowadays? So when I heard about it in 2011, friends of mine were using harnessed together desktop computers. That's how they were mining. So what size machines are these now? What would one machine even look like?
They put out what's called gigahash. They're computing power, and these are fairly large. I'm using Antminer SJ19 Pros, which put up per second are doing about 100 gigahash per second. So that comes into your entire mining, and it tells you what you have. So basically what you're doing when you're mining is you're buying gigahash. You can buy 10 miners that put out X amount, 800,000 gigahash. We're mining now, over 5 million gigahash. So we're bringing in, a pretty nice little, 50 grand a month on mining. So, and that's at current prices. If the price was to go up, the payoff on the miners is about right now at about, 14 months,
Yeah.
13.8 months. So you buy this miner and it pays for itself in about 13, 14 months. And then it continues to make money for you for the next 5 years. So, so you can do it. It's got a great return. I've got money in the stock market. I've got money in bonds. I've got money in real estate. I've got money in different places, but I'm more excited about this than I am probably anything else. Could it go to zero? Yeah, I guess it could. I guess I could, it won't be the first time I've ever lost money, but if you're not willing to play the game, sometimes, you get big returns, the risk is higher, but I like the returns. And I also am a true believer in Bitcoin. I think so many major companies now are out there. They're building some of the largest Bitcoin mining farms in the world in West Texas using pop-off gas from the wells as their energy. They're using wind turbines. All the Chinese miners, China stopped mining in China, and they all moved to Texas. They're east of Austin, and they're putting in some of the largest Bitcoin mining farms in the world. But even with all this Bitcoin mining going on, there's still opportunity for somebody that just wants 10 miners or 5. And you could do that in your garage. You could. I just want somebody else hosting it, paying for the electricity, because you're looking at probably 9 cents to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Whereas you go to a large group, they can pre-buy their electricity for 5 years, 10 years, and they're getting it 3.5 cents. So you're actually making a 3 times return. Could you do it in your house? Sure. But I'd rather be efficient, and I'd rather have somebody else doing the maintenance. Although that doesn't, I still reserve the right at some point to have my own farm if I want.
God, I love your brain, Bruce. I love your brain. It's so here's what's exciting to me, and I want listeners to be inside what I experience with you. You were even keeled when it comes to investing. So I remember in 2017, because we had annual planning, and you flew up to Washington State, and you were checking your phone constantly, and you were like, look at this, it's changing, it's going up, it's going down. So when it falls to zero, you're ready to take that risk. And sounds like you've done so by really diversifying your portfolio. So it's not necessarily, you're not putting all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah, and that's not smart. I've got enough other things but I think it should be a part. I think it's an alternative investment that should be a part of your portfolio if you're looking for big returns. And just imagine having something pay for itself in 14 months. Or, let's say your car, let's say you bought your car and it created revenue for you, and it was paid for in 14 months, but continued to make revenue for you at the same level, or with the potential. I think that Bitcoin is today at 62,000. I bought Bitcoin when it was at 13, thinking, gosh, it's pretty expensive, but I'm going to go ahead and get a few. Well, I think there's a better chance of Bitcoin going to 100 than there is for Bitcoin going to 10.
Yeah.
And just with all the research, I read articles on it every single day, and I just, and it's voodoo, as far as most dentists, most people that I know that are really great at investing and everything else, when I talk to them about Bitcoin, they just don't get it. They look at you and they just kind of go, Bitcoin, because it's not the analytic mind, sometimes overanalyzes, and they just give up on something that, whereas there's other people, there's people that back in the 2010, 2011, that had several thousand Bitcoin because their miners were mining them so fast. And those several thousand Bitcoins now are worth billions of dollars.
Oh, my friend that told me in 2012, he said, Reagan, just buy one Bitcoin at like 1,200 or whatever it was. He said, just buy one. It's like having a token. Don't go and invest too much in it. He had many Bitcoins. And now I'm thinking, oh my, he's fully retired now. So do you, Bruce, plan on, like, as you grow these Bitcoins, do you plan on transferring them into, like, for example, would you pull some and buy gold? Would you pull some as far as or are you just going to sit there and let it cook for the next 10 years?
I will buy other assets, other assets with that. There's tax consequences to mining. When you're mining, you actually pay the taxes on that. So if you mine $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, that's $100,000 worth of income. And the other good news is that it qualifies, the equipment qualifies for a 179 deduction. So, like you can deduct up to $1 million. I think it's $1.05 million this year. But so if you bought $1 million worth of miners, that's offsetting $1 million worth of revenue, which is kind of nice. Now, everything that comes in later, if you decided to sell one, then that becomes capital gains. If you've held it for a year or longer, it's long term. If you hold it less, it's short term. And who knows what capital gains are going to be with the new administration. But I do know that we've got lots of, there's lots of opportunities. There's things to learn when you're doing this. And I'll be doing probably a webinar every couple of weeks just to help people, maybe they find a way to make sure that their Bitcoin is safe. You've got to have that. And also the tax ramifications, not being a CPA or a tax accountant or anything along those lines. I'm just sharing with you, this is what I'm doing, and go talk to your accountant. Go talk to your attorney. So that's good.
Going digital 2021.
I know, man. Printers and Bitcoin and everything else. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Well,
Dr. Bruce Baird, I look forward to many more years with you. We'll see you in the metaverse. I can't wait to see your avatar.
Yeah, I'm going to have you create it. So you know that.
We got you covered.
Okay.
Well, thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Dr. Bruce, for being my guest today on Everyday Practices. And we'll see you around the corner.
All right. My pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.